students. Now, today I am going to start the explanation of new chapter, that is lesson number 13. Heading of the chapter is sound. And in part 1 of the explanation of lesson number 13, today I will be telling you about the sound. So, first of all, students, you should know what is sound. So, sound is a form of energy. What is sound? Sound is a form of energy which produces the sensation of hearing in our ears. So if anybody asks you how you will define sound, then you can say that sound is a form of energy which produces the sensation of hearing in our ears. This is the first thing which you should remember regarding the sound. Next important thing about sound is that every day in our everyday life we are hearing sounds of different types which are produced by different sources. So there are various sources which are responsible for the production of sound which we hear in our day-to-day life or everyday life in our surrounding. So some of the examples of the sources which are producing the sound which we can hear in our surrounding every day, that is the cackle of the cocks is there, barking of dogs. You all have heard that the dogs used to bark on the strangers or the peoples who are moving on the road. Beside this, sound is also produced from musical instruments. There are certain musical instruments which are played for generating or producing the music of different types, and these musical instruments, they also produce the sound. Next is radios and television. They are also very good source of production of sound. So radios and television also produce sound. Beside this, thunder, natural phenomena which takes place, that is also responsible for a source of producing the sound. Then noise of vehicles, the vehicles which are moving around us on the roads, they are also source for producing the sound, as well as when we speak with anyone or we communicate with each other, then also we produce the sound. So these are some of the various sources which are responsible for producing different types of sounds in our surrounding, which we hear with the help of our ears every day. Next important thing about the sound which you should remember, that sound is an inseparable part of our life. So from these things we can say that sound is inseparable part of our life. Why? Because it is almost very difficult to imagine a world without sound. So we can say that without sound has become very important part of our life. It is an inseparable part of our life, and it is almost very difficult to imagine a world without sound. So these are some of the basic introductory informations related with the sound. Next to this, students, I would like to tell you how the sound is produced. So the sound is produced as a result of the vibration of the object. So the vibrating objects, they used to produce the sound. For example, guitar is there, a musical instrument. It is an example of a string instrument in which the thin metallic wire strings are there, which are tied at two different points. And when we pluck these wires with the help of our fingers, then what happens? The strings which are present, they start vibrating. And when these strings vibrate, then they produce the sound or music of different frequencies. Beside this, tightly stretched rubber band is also very good example. This activity you can perform at home. That is, you take a rubber band and tie the two ends of the rubber band, stretch it, and tightly you coil both the ends of the rubber band, and you pluck it with in the center with the help of your finger. You will see that it will start, the rubber band will start vibrating, and when it will vibrate, you will hear that it produces some sound. So this is also very good example by means of which you can say that the vibrating objects produce the sound, or for the production of sound, vibration in the object is necessary. Next important example which you can give, that is of the metal plate. If you take a metallic plate and you strike it with a stick or a hammer, then what happens? That plate starts vibrating, and as a result of the vibration of that metallic plate which we have struck or beaten with the help of the stick, it starts vibrating, and as a result of that, it produces the sound. So, with the help of these examples, we can prove that the vibration is very much necessary for the production of sound, or the vibrating objects, they produce sound. Next, besides this, few more examples are there. One is here, that is, if we take a flexible plastic scale and we place it at one end, and the other end is left in the air, hanging in the air, and one end of that we have hold it, and if we plug that flexible plastic scale, what happens? It starts vibrating, and when this flexible plastic scale vibrates, then it results in the production of sound. So these are some of the activities by means of which we can say that the sound is produced by the vibrating objects. So for the production of the sound, vibration in the object is necessary, or the sound is produced by the vibrating objects. And these are some of the examples which I have explained you just now, which you can perform and experience this thing which I have just now told you about the sound. Now after this, students, I will be explaining you about the musical instruments. So before I explain you about the musical instruments, it is important for you to know what is music. So music is a type of sound which produces very pleasant effect when we hear it. That is what is called as the music. And there are various instruments which are responsible for producing these pleasant sounds, which we called music. They are called as musical instruments. And these musical instruments, they are divided into 4 groups. What are those 4 groups? The first group of the musical instrument is the stringed instrument. String musical instruments are there, like for example violin is there, then guitar, sitar, veena, etc. These are some of the examples of the musical instrument, string musical instruments. And in these string musical instruments, how the sound is produced? The sound is produced when we produce the vibration in the metallic wire, thin metallic wires which are tied at 2 ends with the help of our finger. Then what happened? These strings, or the thin metallic wires which are tied at between the 2 ends, they start vibrating, and when they vibrate, they produce the sound. For changing the frequency of the sound produced by these string instruments, what are the 2 factors which are responsible? That is, first factor is that is by changing the length of the string. By changing the length of the string, we can change the pitch or frequency of the sound which is produced by this string instrument. and second is by changing the tightness of the string. That is, the more we will tighten the string, the lesser will be the more will be the lesser will be the sound produced, or the frequency of the sound will be less. Next to this, the second type of musical instruments about which I am going to explain, that is the wind instruments. So, for example, flute is there, trumpet is there, SANJAY, and many other type of instruments are there which are kept in the category of the wind instruments. Beside this, SANJAY, saxophone is also there. So these are some of the examples of the wind musical instruments, and in these type of wind musical instruments, the sound is produced as a result of the vibration in the air column inside these instruments. So the vibration which is generated in the air column which is present inside these instruments, they are responsible for the production of sound when they vibrate. Next to this wind instrument, the third type of musical instrument is the reed instruments. And what are these reeds? These are metallic plates which are present inside these musical instruments or the reed instruments, and the example of the reed instruments are like mouth organ. Mouth organ is very good example of reed instruments. Beside this, harmonium is also there, which is also kept in the category of the reed instruments. And how these reed instruments produce sound? That is, these reed instruments produce sound when the air is blown. When we blow the air with our mouth in, then this air which we blow, it produces vibration in the metallic reeds which are present in these instruments, which result in the production of sound. And the last category or the type of the musical instrument about which I am going to explain, that is the membrane or percussion instruments. And the example of these membrane or stretched, you can say stretched membrane or percussion instruments, that is tabla, drum, then dholak is there, mridangam is there. So these are some of the examples of the membrane or stretched membrane musical instruments or percussion instruments. In these instruments, the sound is produced when we strike with our fingers or with our hands on the tightly stretched membrane which is placed on top of these percussion instruments. And when we beat on these tightly stretched membrane, then what happens? This membrane starts vibrating, and as a result of the vibration in the stretched membrane, these percussion instruments, they start producing the sound. So this is how the various musical instruments, they produce sound as a result of the vibration of the air columns, due to the vibration of the stretched membranes, due to the vibration which is produced in the metallic reeds. This is how they produce the sound or the music of different types. So with this, students, we come to an end of today's class, and tomorrow the topic which I am going to explain, that is how the sound is propagates, how the sound is produced in the human body, and how we are able to hear that sound which is produced by the help of our ears. Thank you and have a nice day.